Brilliant. Welcome, guys. We will get started kind of sharpish. I'm aware you've got other calls after this as well, so we'll try and keep it quite short and quite interactive. Today is the first part of probably will be a two-part, maybe three-part on recovery strategies, and kind of how to maximize your recovery from sport. So I've got a PowerPoint, but then we might do a few different tasks where either I'll get you to break out into different rooms and chat with each other, or answer some questions within this group. If you have any questions at any point, like I always say, just use the group chat, the chat feature, and just jot them in there, and then I'll answer them as we go. Cool. So yeah, like I say, we're going to start on recovery for sport. Today we'll probably center mainly around overarching view, and then going into a bit more detail around sleep, and then we'll build on that, and moving forward build into some other strategies such as nutrition, meditation, other modalities. So why is this an important topic? So obviously the balance between training versus recovery leads to performance. So too much training, not enough recovery, inadequate performance. Not enough training, too much recovery, again leads to probably an underdeveloped and inadequate performance. So we're trying to find this sweet spot between having the right level and the right intensity and amount of training, and the right amount of recovery to allow us to come back from that training again harder, or go and perform even harder. So we're just looking at the strategies to get those right. So what we'll do today is just kind of looking around the different recovery methods we can use, and when and how they should be used and why. So again, coming back to the why, so to improve performance, we have to train with training loads above what the body is used to. So we have to put the body into an alarm state. If we train well below our threshold, we're never going to get that alarm response, and therefore we're never going to get an improvement in performance. But that nature of that training comes with a high degree of fatigue paired with high levels of training. And it's fatigue that can impair performance in the short term and long term if not managed effectively. So obviously in the short term, if you've got kind of a camp weekend where you've got a quick turnaround, or you're at a competition and you've got a two-day turnaround between games, recovery is going to be really important in the short term for maintaining performance. But then over a longer term, the amount of recovery you allow yourself within your training system is going to lead to either a long-term potential growth in performance, or a continued kind of decrement to performance, and what can be called like overtraining syndrome or chronic overtraining. Again, if you have any questions at any point, please just jump in, because I'm going to rattle through just due to time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck you very quickly into Okay, no, brilliant. So what I want you to do is in the chat, I would like you to answer these two questions. So what does recovery mean to you, and what current practices do you use to help you recover effectively? So I'll give you like 2 minutes all just to jot an answer to both those questions in for me. So what does it mean to you, and what current practices do you use? Drop some answers into that chat so we can discuss around them. Cool. So Ned saying getting your body ready to train again after it has been used to a level. Recovering quickly but no injury. Give time for your body to recover. Being able to rest, good amount of sleep and active recovery. Having a warm up and cool down. Taking time away from training and matches to focus on recovery, to decrease injury, so good amount of sleep. Healing or repairing your body. So what do people do so we've got sleep in there, and someone said active recovery, but if they want to expand on that, what other things do people do to allow their bodies to recover effectively? What would your go-to be if you'd had like a really tough training week? Cold shower and stretching. Lots of stretching, sleep, an ice bath. Days, sleep, stretching, sleep, ice bath, slow walk, foam rollers. Okay, cool. No, nice. Some good mixtures of answers there and some good strategies. So what are some of the factors that affect our recovery? Because our recovery shouldn't always be equal. Um, so the things that may affect that is the intensity of training. Your recovery after a really intense training session may look different to that after a slightly lighter training session. So that's something to bear in mind. Or the period of competition you're in. If you're in a competition, you may want to recover more versus if you're in a period of kind of progressive training. Training volume, a 2-session weekend as opposed to a 1-session weekend, going to require different focuses and different amount of recovery. Frequency, so do I have a 1-day turnaround, 2-day turnaround? Have I got 3 days until my next training session or my competition? The quality of rest. So I think this is really important. So sometimes more is less, and we'll come on in a minute to kind of what I call the big rocks. But actually, more isn't always better, and more isn't always more. So the quality of what you're doing is better than the quantity of it. And then finally, your nutrition is going to affect your recovery, but as will other big rocks. If you eat like a child, as I call it, and you don't eat well, don't fuel your body properly, then you're probably never going to recover and train to the level you should be able to. So something I talk about quite a lot when I talk recovery with athletes is something called the 80-20 rule. And this is a long-standing association that basically, for a lot of things and a lot of events, about 80% of the effects of outcomes come from 20% of effort or causes. So what that essentially means is if I was to do 10 things, 2 of those things are going to actually have a really big impact and probably get me 80% of my results. Then the other 8 things that I do are taking up a large amount of time, but actually having minimal effect on what I'm trying to achieve. So therefore, we then have things that actually take up more time than the benefit they're serving, and we'd be better off spending more time on the smaller percent. So what I'd like you to now do in the chat is, what do you think would come into that 20%, and what would come into that 80%? So what gives me a lot of bang for buck in recovery, and what actually has little effect for the amount of effort that I have to put into it? Yeah, what are your big rocks? Lots of benefit, and what are not so effective? Anyone? So sleep, very effective, good. Would probably fall into that 20%. Would come into that 20%. Okay, cool. No one else wants to jump in. Okay, interesting. So stretching, um, I'll show you where that comes on my one in a second. Ice bath again, I'm going to argue probably not in that 20%. Nutrition, Hannah, yeah, I'd agree with that. Definitely one of my big rocks. Anyone else want to hazard a guess? Cool. So my big rocks are nutrition, sleep, hydration, and stretching. And then my kind of what I call the fillers, so the other things that make up that 80%, cryotherapy, so ice baths, cold chambers, hot cold, anything like that. Compression garments, skins, if you're fortunate enough, kind of like Normatex and stuff like that. Massage, and then like active recovery, so going for a swim, going for a run, a light walk or something like that would come in there. So for me, my three big rocks are definitely sleep, hydration, and nutrition. And then my kind of stretching and active recovery would be my next two after that. But I would say stretch and recovery still come into that 80% of things that have a little effect, but aren't your big effects. If you was to nail your nutrition, sleep, and hydration, I think you would be a long way towards the optimal recovery, and you'd see a big improvement in training strategies over time. Okay, so going on to sleep. So how does sleep loss influence performance? So a reduction in sleep quality and quantity can result in the nervous system imbalance, which can then lead to symptoms of overtraining. Growth hormone, which is a tissue for regeneration and growth of tissues, it's released during periods of sleep. So if you have less sleep, you're going to have less likely to kind of produce growth hormone, and therefore less likely to recover and grow your muscles and repair your muscles. You're around 2 times more likely to be injured if you have less sleep. You also have a lower cognitive performance, slower and less accurate cognitive performance. So in a game setting, less likely to make the right decision. And there's a few other ones on there, and I won't go through them all. One that's quite interesting for this time of year and with kind of current things going on, but infectious diseases as well. So people who sleep less are up to kind of 4.5 times more likely to develop a cold, flu, or severe symptoms to that than someone who sleeps 7 or more hours. And then again, you'll see on this graph down the bottom that more hours sleep leads to less risk of injury. So sleep is important. So again, question for the group. How much sleep should you be having? So just check in the group chat. How many hours? 8, 4, 6 to 8, 8, 7 to 9, 7 to 9. So yeah, we've kind of got everything from 6, 7 to around 8 to 10. Cool. Brilliant. So how many hours of sleep do we need? So an average adult, and I would class you all as adults, so needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. The average adult gets only 5 to 7 hours a night. However, the average hours of sleep that many professional athletes get is around 10 to 12. So usually training tips a focus on rigorous schedules and strict diets, but what about rest and recovery? So sleep is one of the most important training tools, and it doesn't even require you to sign up to it. You just need to do it. So sometimes it's important to consider your schedule around sleep rather than sleep around your schedule, and actually make it a priority. So some people have put some different things in here around times. What would you say is better? And this is a straight one or the other question. 7.5 hours sleep or 8 hours sleep? Eight. Okay, Luke, I'm going to pick on you because you're the only one who actually said 7.5. Why did you go 7.5? Feel free to unmute yourself and answer, or type your answer, whatever you'd prefer.
I think I just seen something once where it's like you sleep in cycles of about 45 minutes. So it's
Cool.
like that would be divisible by 45 minutes
Nice.
than 8.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Good, not entirely correct, but you're very close to the point. So for me, 7.5 hours sleep would be better than 8 hours sleep, and I will tell you why. So as Luke said, you sleep in cycles. The only thing that's slightly different is you actually sleep in 90-minute cycles, so not 45. Again, because it's divisible by 45, 7.5 divisible by 90. So what you see on the left-hand side here is an entire night's sleep, and what you see is someone going through the cycles of being asleep, slightly more awake, deep sleep, slightly more awake, deeper sleep, slightly more awake, deeper sleep, slightly more awake. And then what one sleep cycle looks like is you drop down through the levels of consciousness to the different stages of sleep, which we'll come on to in a little bit. And then you kind of just drift in and out, spend a bit more time in deep sleep, and then you finish in what's this called rapid eye movement sleep. And that all takes just under 90 minutes for a full cycle. So lots of different benefits to the different stages of sleep. But the ones that we really want to look to get into is this restorative sleep. So where blood pressure decreases, circulation increases, and growth hormone and repair muscle hormones that repair the muscles and body are released. And then this REM sleep, which is really good for cognitive processing and processing memory that you've learned from the day before. I won't go through this just due to time constraints, but if you want to go back through and have a look at the importance of each stage and what happens. But for me, like I say, stage 3 and stage 4 are the most important phases of sleep, but they're the ones that take us longest to get to. So if you was asleep for only an hour, you'd have limited stage 3 and stage 4 sleep. Whereas if you was asleep for 90 minutes, you're going to have a lot more of that. So yeah, that's just important to remember. Who knows what circadian rhythm means? Anyone? We'll jump through. So circadian rhythm is what we refer to as our internal body clock. So it's how our body knows the time of day without looking at the time of day. So is it morning? Is it evening? And it's all linked around the rising and setting of the sun. So there's little timepieces in our cell that controls physiology, such as sleep, body temperature, metabolism, and release of hormones. And the body temperature and release of hormones is what controls our tiredness and kind of ability to sleep. So it's essentially a smartwatch, or smarter than smartwatch, which tells us when it's time to be sleepy and when it's time to feel awake and alert. How can this help us? So it lets us figure out why some people are very kind of morning and early bird type people, and some people are very night owl and like late night people. And knowledge like this can help you learn how to plan your sleep schedule accordingly, making sure that you wake up in the right sleep stages to maximize your energy levels. In addition, if you do have to travel for competition, fighting jet lag makes sense, and you can fight that by understanding your kind of melatonin production and sleep pattern. So what I have here is I've got a questionnaire that I'm going to paste into the chat. You don't have to do this right now, but I would suggest you open it and at some point do it and kind of have a little play with finding out what your natural sleep time is. So what I'll do is I'll show you mine. So this shows that I'm what's called an intermediate. So I'm not a full morning person and I'm not a full evening person. I sit somewhere in between. So I know that my melatonin onset is around 9:30. So this is the first time in the day that I'm probably able to start falling asleep. So if I try to go to sleep before 9:30, that doesn't really suit me, and I would struggle to go to sleep. But my optimal natural bedtime is around 11:45. So at that kind of time of night, I would be able to fall asleep very quickly and very easily. So yeah, and then what you can do off of that is you can plan your different times to go to sleep. And you can plan this backwards from what's called a constant wake time. So I know that I have to wake up at this time every day, and then I work backwards and I sleep in 90-minute cycles to decide the optimal time to go to sleep to get the amount of sleep I need. So if I was to get home at 11 o'clock and I couldn't get into sleep and go to bed right then, I would wait until kind of 12:30 because that would allow me a better sleep cycle. How can we improve sleep? So kind of 15 good tricks that I would recommend. So reduce screen time before bed, have a constant wake up time, and on waking up, get exposure to bright natural lights. So sometimes a simulated sunrise or a light alarm clock is really good. When your alarm goes off, don't snooze it, get up, get out of bed. If you must use your computer at night or your phone, use the blue light adjuster, which just takes out some of the harshness. And meditation can be really helpful for slowing the brain down and going to sleep. Foods with a high glycemic index, so kind of pastas, rices, those sort of foods can help improve. So sorry, like brown pastas, brown rices, sweet potato can improve sleep, as well as high protein meals included in that. However, high fat intake might disrupt sleep. So try and keep low calorie intake just before sleeping, especially fat. Melatonin and magnesium are supplements that can help with sleep, but I wouldn't recommend them before trying any of the other stuff. Try not to fall asleep to the TV on, and then making sure that your hydration is correct throughout the day, so you're not drinking lots of water before bed. And then just a few others there: mattress, fresh sheets, and controlling your body temperature. So a few other little tips. So always make sure you wind down before you go to sleep, even if you're completely shattered and just got in. Take 10-15 minutes just to do something, read a book, switch off, slow yourself down before you get to bed. It will not only help you fall asleep once you get into bed, but then you will stay asleep for longer. And you can use the time traveling home from training if you're not driving as part of that. So listen to a podcast, kind of chill yourself out, start to slow down then. As you wind down, make sure you're ready for bed, pajamas on, and then you can just get up and go to sleep when you're sleepy. So don't sit in your tracksuit on the sofa dozing off, and then you've got to go get showered, get changed, get ready for bed, then unwind, and then you can go straight to sleep. The hour before you go to sleep, so just think about creating a drop in your heart rate and a drop in your core temperature. So heart rate, things that relax you. So don't watch a scary film or something that's going to get you a high rate. So scrolling through Instagram and getting annoyed that your friends posted that instead of something else, or that someone's liked somebody's photo, it's probably not the best thing to do. Watch something chilled, watch something that's going to really relax you. And then core temperature. So contrary to popular belief, warm baths and showers are better than cold for lowering your core temperature. And then place your feet either in like a bowl of hot water or on a hot water bottle. Can just really start to drop that core temperature. If you can't sleep, don't force yourself. And if you've been in bed for kind of around 20 to 30 minutes and you're still not asleep, get up, leave your room, go do something for 10 minutes or so, then come back and start again. It's better to listen to something as opposed to watch. Have a constant wake up time. Don't lie for more than 90 minutes. And then stick to that kind of 90-minute cycle of sleep. If you do ever have to travel, do the same thing before bed that you would at home. Take a pillow and pillowcase from home so that you have familiarity, and take a smell that's familiar as well, because that will all help your brain recognize that it's sleep and allow that sleep to be more consistent and good. And then finally, if you need to nap, 15 to 20 minutes is the perfect time, because after that you'll start to drift into deep sleep. Have caffeine before your nap, set your alarm, and then when you wake up, get up and go. So find a good place to do it and then just crack on. Any questions? If not, I'll finish it up there. There's a few more notes on here that if you want to crack on through, and then when we come back next time, we can go through nutrition. But couple of minutes, does anyone have any questions? kind of rattle through quite a lot of that at the end. So if you do, now's your time, or if you want to kind of message me after, feel free to do so. Cool. No, if you've got no questions, you're welcome to shoot. If you do have a question, stay and ask it, or drop it in the chat and I'll answer it while people are dropping up. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
No problem.